Over the last 18 years, I've spent time learning about this condition and understanding that our understanding of this through brilliant researchers and clinicians in different parts of the world, that we can actually treat this condition, stop it progressing, and even bring pigment back if we treat it early. And the great news is there are newer and newer treatments that are coming year on year as a result of all the scientific advancement and knowledge that we now have that can hopefully not just get pigment back, but can keep it there. This actually happens in a huge proportion of patients, much more than we thought. The existing literature suggests 1 to 2% of the population, but in fact, the latest research has shown here in Australia as well as globally, it may be as high as 8%, which is huge. So vitiligo is actually an autoimmune condition, much like celiac disease, much like type 1 diabetes, where a person is potentially born with a genetic tendency to autoimmune conditions, and there's a whole lot of autoimmune conditions that kind of run together as a family of conditions. If you have one, you potentially have the risk of developing others.
I didn't realise that vitiligo was autoimmune. So when he said you've got vitiligo, I went, oh no. And then when he said autoimmune, it triggered something in my brain because I realised my mum has alopecia and my aunt has alopecia, which is, an autoimmune condition where your immune system attacks your hair follicles. I'd spent my teenage years, my early 20s, my 30s, my 40s, worrying about getting alopecia. And it was funny because I went, isn't that funny? All those wasted years worrying about something, and something else was coming for me. It was sort of similar, but it was something else that I never would have predicted.
What's really disturbing and distressing about vitiligo is that it often affects people first on the face and on the hands, which is something that's readily visible to everyone else. And without treatment, most people will progress to have multiple areas of the body being involved.
I started noticing my skin changing, especially my face. Gut instinct was like, I need to go to a dermatologist.
So we find that people are often depressed, they're anxious, they're not wanting to go out socially. It affects quality of life, but more than that, it's one of the most stigmatized skin conditions in the world.
It doesn't matter where I went, somebody would be always staring or looking, or you'd have kids pointing. And it just makes you really, really self-conscious in the way you can go about your life.
These patients are often openly discriminated against. They might have reduced occupational opportunities, reduced marital opportunities. And we even know that in some cultural groups, a diagnosis of vitiligo may be mistaken for leprosy. And therefore, not just the patient, but their entire family could be ostracised from a community. Having that stigmatisation and quality of life impact is actually one of the main reasons that we want to innovate and make differences in these patients' lives.
My parents probably had more of a worry about it, coming from an Indian background. Obviously, sort of seeing white spots on your son's brown skin it probably caused them a lot of anxiety and them a lot of frustration.
So I'm really, really hopeful for the future for patients that have vitiligo, and I'm very, very confident that in another 5 or 10 years we'll be having a very different story of treatment. It won't just be the creams and the phototherapy and a couple of tablets. We'll be having all sorts of fancy new creams, injection therapies, etc. that can help patients live better lives.